Good morning, Americans. This is your favorite alien in Santa Barbara here in the morning of Friday, January 15th, 2021. And this is an editorial, and it's entitled, What Killed the USA? On Wednesday, Joe Biden will become the fifth president of the DFA, the Disunited Factions of America. The USA's been dead a long time ago. And how did it die? Well, Richard Nixon had a little bit to do on the death of the USA, as in the Watergate scandal. Then Gerald R. Ford became president, and he was the one and only president that you ever had that was looking for your interest, not Republican, not Democrat, not company, not conservative or liberal or anything. In 1976, you had an election, and you didn't like Mr. Ford because he represented the Republicans in Watergate. So you went for an outsider, Jimmy Carter. The Democrats found out that was a disaster, just like the Republicans did with Donald Trump today. Well, Jimmy Carter won the election, but the Democrats lost the White House for the next 12 years after that. Because the 4 years of Jimmy Carter were as bad as the 4 years of Donald Trump. Remember 20% interest rates? Woohoo! And the Iran hostage situation and the people that died trying to save them in 1980. Yeah, and don't forget the boycott of the Olympics in 1980, because the Soviet Union had boycotted in 1976, or was threatening to boycott that, or they did in 84, remember? Well, anyway, Jimmy Carter's 4 years were disastrous. Ronald Reagan had run a unsuccessful campaign in 1976 with his Reaganites. And he was bringing forth agendas, as in conservatism, which in 1980 he finally won because the conservative Reaganites took over the Republican Party. And for the next 12 years, you had trickle-down economics, which basically destroyed the country. Okay? Then, when Bush took over in 1989, he was the last of the 12 years, the last 4 years. But unfortunately, he wasn't no Ronald Reagan. There's very few guys like Ronald Reagan and Donald Trump. They have charisma. There was nothing about Ronald Reagan that would jump at your throat. He had some very bad guys that didn't like him even in Hollywood or in California as governor, okay? But he could communicate with the people, and he could get the people's vote. That's what Donald Trump did. But he also knew the limits of his so-called going in, and he had a prosperous 2 terms. They weren't exactly perfect either, because remember, you had Iran-Contra and all that good stuff. Arms for hostages. Oh, you remember all that. Oliver North. Oh, yeah. That was Ronald Reagan's 2 terms. And like I said, he, like Donald Trump, had that gift. Nero had that gift. Hitler had that gift. Stalin didn't have that gift, but he had the threat. So Stalin's not in that group. But once George Bush got into office, he didn't have the charisma that Ronald Reagan did, so he lost the presidency. The economy, stupid! And then you had the Democrats under Clinton. Clinton had his own agendas, and he wanted to go left. But he realized that if he wanted to stay in power, he had to go center, so he went back to center. That irked the Democrats. Then came George W. Bush, and he had an agenda, because he said that Saddam Hussein rubbed the nose on my father's presidency, and we didn't even get him in 1991. We stopped short. We got to get him. And because of what happened in 1991, in 1990. And then you had people that didn't like the U.S. and Afghanistan got overrun after the Russians left in 89 and the Taliban took over. The Al-Qaeda went in and 9/11. Yeah. Well, that started. Bush got lucky because the Reaganites were still powerful. So he got a second term in 2004. But that was it for the Republican Party. Okay? The Democrats came back with Obama. But they had a lot of agendas. Within agendas, within agendas, within agendas. And by the time his second term ended, Joseph Biden didn't want to run. He knew what the climate was. And Hillary Clinton, well, she brought a baggage with Clinton. Remember, his second term was all full of baggage? So the people didn't like that. And Donald Trump, he rallied his way to the presidency with his big rallies and what he said. And people took him, oh, well, you know, he's Donald Trump. They thought, oh, yeah, because when he meant fired in his program of the apprentice, that's what it is. Yeah. Well, the last 4 years have taught you different, haven't they? Now, you're going to have Biden. And the Democrats have messed up his administration to start with Pelosi and impeachment. And you 10 Republicans that went for that. Is Trump guilty? Oh, yeah. But there's 50 states that want a piece of him. Okay? So let them take a piece of citizen Trump. All the senators, the congressmen, and the Supreme Court had to do was do a strong rebuke of President Trump and leave it at that. Now Biden is going to have no choice but to pardon him. Why? Because like Gerald R. Ford, he's going to have his desk full of Trump and all kinds of issues. Remember, when Gerald Ford took over in 1974, you had serious issues there. You had the two NATO countries, Turkey and Greece, at war with each other over Cyprus. Remember that? And you had the Chinese under Deng Xiaoping flexing their muscle. And the Russians, oh yeah, and don't forget the Khmer Rouge over there, Pol Pot, he was flexing his muscles in Cambodia. And the North Koreans, I mean, you had the Pueblo in 1968, then you had the Mayaguez in 1975. You forget about that, don't you? President Ford had his hands full in that. So he had no choice but to pardon Nixon. Same with Biden, even though he hates Biden. And I believe that President Ford and Richard Nixon didn't like each other either. But he's going to have to do the same thing that Gerald R. Ford did. Pardon former President Trump because of the situation that you Democrats created, and therefore his administration is doomed. The Republicans are in a lot better shape than you guys were after Carter. All they have to do is find a guy with Trump's ideas, but not as crazy as Trump's, and they'll be back in business. They got the votes. You guys don't. This is your favorite alien and Santa Baba saying, and that's why the U.S. died in the election of 1976. And therefore you got the DFA, the Disunited Factions of America, ever since 1980. Good day.